Hello and welcome. Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Gautam Roy, and coming up in the next hour, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi holds the first cabinet meeting of his third term. New cabinet clears plans to build 30 million homes for urban and rural poor under a housing scheme. India's president allocates portfolios to 71 ministers. Key departments like Home, Defence, Finance and External Affairs retained in the same hands. Allies get steel, heavy industries and Panchayati Raj ignored. European Commission Chief Ursula von der Leyen declares victory, saying the centre has held after far-right parties surge in the EU parliamentary polls. A beating by the far-right in France's EU elections leads President Emmanuel Macron to wager on a snap parliamentary poll with even the Paris Olympics at stake. And in his latest Middle East visit, US Secretary of State Antony Blinken says he's urging the region's leaders to get Hamas to agree to President Biden's ceasefire deal. Well, the inaugural cabinet meeting of the Modi government took place in New Delhi, marking the commencement of the third term for the Prime Minister and his team. In a first key announcement of the cabinet, it was decided that the government will provide assistance to construct 30 million rural and urban homes under Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, which is a housing scheme by the central government of India. The scheme that is running since 2015-16 has completed 42.1 million homes in the last 10 years for the eligible poor families. The government has set various agendas for the upcoming term as well. And earlier in the day, India's Prime Minister Modi took charge of the nation's highest executive office for the third time, and his first step was to authorize the release of 17th installment of PM Kisan Nidhi, which is a fund for farm welfare. The PM's move will benefit 93 million farmers and distribute around $2.3 billion. After signing the file, the Prime Minister said, and I quote, "Ours is a government fully committed to Kisan Kalyan, that is welfare of farmers. It's therefore fitting that the first file signed on taking charge is related to farmer welfare. We want to keep working even more for the farmers and the agriculture sector in the times to come." Unquote. Now, using digital infrastructure, the Pradhan Mantri Kisan Samman Nidhi scheme has been providing monetary aid to farmers. Let's get you more details in this report.
With an aim to provide financial support to farmers, the Government of India launched the Pradhan Mantri Kisan Samman Nidhi scheme in 2019. The initiative aims to benefit all cultivable landholding farmer families across the country. Under the scheme, eligible farmers receive 6,000 rupees annually in 3 equal installments of 2,000 rupees. The fund is directly transferred to the Aadhaar-seeded bank accounts of the beneficiaries. State government and UT administrations identify the farmers who are eligible for support as per scheme guidelines, but farmers can also self-register on the PM Kisan portal. As of 2024, the Indian government has disbursed nearly 3 lakh crore rupees to over 11 crore farmer families. With reliance on a farmer-centric digital infrastructure, the scheme has been ensuring that farmers receive monetary aid without involvement of any middlemen while maintaining transparency in the process. Bureau Report, DD India.
And Monday also saw Prime Minister Modi addressing officials and staff of the Prime Minister's office, outlining his vision to transform the PMO into a people's PMO. DD India's Mihir Mekhuri has more.
Moments after assuming office, Prime Minister Narendra Modi addressed the officials and staff of the Prime Minister's office. In his address, Prime Minister Modi reiterated his unwavering commitment to transforming the Prime Minister's office into a centre of service and a people's PMO.
मेरी कोशिश रही है कि पीएमओ ये सेवा का अधिष्ठान होना चाहिए। पीएमओ ये पीपल्स पीएमओ होना चाहिए, ये मोदी पीएमओ नहीं हो सकता है।
Praising the contributions of government employees, Prime Minister Modi stated that every government employee truly deserves credit for this election victory, as they left no stone unturned in contributing to the vision of Viksit Bharat. Prime Minister Modi added that he aims to move forward with new energy and courage.
जिस टीम ने मुझे 10 साल में बहुत कुछ दिया है, उसमें हम और नया क्या कर सकते हैं, और अच्छा कैसे कर सकते हैं, और जल्दी कैसे कर सकते हैं, और ज्यादा स्केल पर कैसे कर सकते हैं। अगर उन चीजों को लेकर के आप साथ ही आगे बढ़ते हैं तो मुझे पक्का विश्वास है कि 140 करोड़ देशवासियों ने आपके पुरुषार्थ को मोहर लगाई है। ये चुनाव मोदी के भाषणों को मोहर नहीं है, ये चुनाव आपके 10 साल के हर सरकारी कर्मचारियों के पुरुषार्थ को मोहर लगी हुई है।
The Prime Minister's address came a day after Prime Minister Narendra Modi, along with 71 ministers, took the oath for a third consecutive term at the President's house on Sunday. Mihir Makri, DD, India.
And the day also saw the significant announcement from the President's office of the Cabinet, including the portfolios of all the ministers, the 71 ministers who were sworn in. These include 30 Cabinet ministers, 36 ministers of state and 5 Minister of State with independent charge as well, and a lot of continuity, really showing a lot of confidence in the kind of team that Prime Minister Modi had when he was going through his second term as well, because there's Amit Shah, who's got the Home Ministry and the Ministry of Cooperation. Amit Shah is a senior BJP leader and has served as Home Minister of India in the 17th Lok Sabha. He's got Home Ministry and apart from that the Ministry of Cooperatives as well. And he served as the 10th president of the BJP as well in an earlier role from 2014 to 2020. And this is then consistent with the way the Defence Ministry has also been allocated. You've seen how Rajnath Singh has been Defence Minister since 2019. He's served this key Ministry of Defence as well as Home Affairs in Prime Minister Modi's cabinets. He's also served as Chief Minister of Uttar Pradesh. And like I said, there's a lot of continuity. So there is another team member who's retained the Ministry of Finance and Corporate Affairs. Nirmala Sitharaman has been lauded for her role in advancing the second generation economic reforms in the country as well. And she was the first full-time woman Finance Minister of India. And another person who's been trusted with a lot of responsibility is Ashwini Vaishnav, who's got the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting, and he's also continuing with Railways and Communication, Electronics and IT. That's the kind of portfolio and that's the kind of profile Ashwini Vaishnav has. As you can see, he's got a Master's in Technology from IIT Kanpur and an MBA as well. And again, in terms of continuity, Dr. S. Jaishankar, former Foreign Secretary, and then he became Minister after superannuating from the Indian Foreign Service. He's retained the External Affairs Ministry. He is an important and prominent figure in India's diplomatic endeavours. And again, Nitin Gadkari has retained the Ministry of Road Transport and Highways. That's what he had in the earlier government, the previous Modi government as well. And Nitin Gadkari then keeping, that's a new face in the Modi government. Shivraj Singh Chauhan, who spent a large part of the last over 2 decades as Chief Minister of Madhya Pradesh, has now become India's new Agriculture and Farmers Welfare Minister. JP Nadda, who was BJP President for several years since 2020, is now back as the Health and Family Welfare Minister. He's got the additional charge of Chemical and Fertilizers Ministry as well. So let's talk about this significant allocation of work, really, portfolios. Apart from the day's developments, we have senior journalist Shekhar here to talk about it. Shekhar, What do you make out first of how the portfolios have been distributed this time around? Because this time around, a large part of these portfolios have also gone to allies.
Yeah, definitely the allies had to be accommodated because this is a government of coalition and supporting parties. So that had to be done. But if you look at the big picture that is emerging from Modi 3.0 is there is a thrust on continuity because some of the key ministers who held portfolios in the previous administration, they are back. You have Rajnath ji back as defense minister, you have Amit Shah back as home minister, you have Nirmala ji as back as finance minister, and Dr. Jaishankar as the foreign minister. So those four thrust areas will see continuity in policies, and the Prime Minister believes these are the people who should be continuing with the good work they have done in the last 5 years, and priorities of these areas are very clear, whether it is defense or home or finance. So, particularly for choosing Nirmala ji to continue as finance minister is because a number of proposals that were initiated in the previous administration and also that were mentioned during the interim budget that was presented that had to move forward with the full budget. But there are also important changes, Gautam, that we have to take note. Even among allies, you see the way the portfolios have been given are keeping in with their wish list, which has been accommodated to a great extent. Of particular interest is what we are seeing is, of course, Nitin Gadkari is back as road transport minister, but the importance I am seeing, like for instance, Mansukh Mandavia taking over as, among other things, he is also going to be the sports minister.
Yeah.
And the significance of this, Prime Minister has been speaking about why should not India, bid for 2036 Olympics. So which means that would require preparation right away for creating the necessary sports infrastructure, upgrading some of the infrastructure, and the fact that consistently we have seen our boys and girls participating in international games and coming home with a lot of medals and accolades. So the fact that he has asked a minister like Mandavia, who was earlier handling health, goes to show the priority that he is giving to even a field like sports. Apart from that, you can see the power. See, this is the one government.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to talk about. Shekhar, also the big changes because we've seen Shivraj Singh Chauhan coming in for agriculture and farmers' welfare. And the first thing that the PM did today was related to farmers' welfare. PM Kisan Samman Nidhi, the next tranche of funds, was released. And the cabinet decision was related to housing, for urban and rural poor. And again, you have a new face where that ministry is concerned.
Yeah, so you see that is why you can see that the first decision is, setting the target, which was earlier already indicated that they have done 4 crore houses were built. This time Prime Minister said even during election campaign, the target is to build 3 more. This has been one of the most successful programs, particularly PM Awas Yojana. So the Prime Minister wants that this should be taken up in a very big way and it should be pushed with full gusto. That is why this has been done. Similarly, there are other changes like Nadda has been brought back to Health Ministry, which he had held earlier. And you also mentioned about Shivraj Singh Chauhan. Shivraj Singh Chauhan has been the most successful Chief Minister of Madhya Pradesh. He is seen as a friend of the farmers. And some of the schemes that he implemented in Madhya Pradesh has resulted in a lot of relief for farmers. So he comes with his experience, and Prime Minister is interested in agriculture portfolio because there are several issues that needs to be sorted out as far as agriculture development is concerned in this country. So I consider that, in fact, everybody was mentioning, everybody was speculating he will come. And similarly, Ashwini Vaishnav ji getting INB ministry is also very significant. He will be handling INB in addition to his main portfolio, that is railways and as well as IT. Those are thrust areas, infrastructure area, development areas. But the fact that he will be heading the INB ministry means he will be regularly briefing the media on behalf of the government, whether it is cabinet decisions, whether it is media policy. So you are going to see Ashwini Vaishnavji coming up with a lot of new ideas to improve the communication strategy of the government.
Right. And in terms of what you see as the allocation to allies, what do you make of how it's been allocated, not just in terms of the cabinet ranks and the independent charge MOSs, but even at the level of the MOSs who are attached to the cabinet ministers? Quite a change there as well, and fairly significant in terms of how an ally has been also accommodated in the home ministry.
Yes, that is also very significant, you see, and particularly the ministries from Bihar, the allies from Bihar were very keen. They got everything related to rural development and agriculture. So you find Lalan Singh, who is a very close aide of Nitish Kumar, he has been asked to handle fisheries, dairy development, and things like that, which are all considered part of the allied areas, because now agriculture is seen as an extended kind of thing, which includes all these things. That's important. And I think I forgot to mention that Mandavia is also going to be in charge of employment and labor.
Correct.
Where this time during the elections, the whole narrative was about creation of jobs. What are the schemes that government is doing to bring jobs, create jobs, skill development? I mean, reskilling labor was also an important thing, and some kind of changes in the labor sector, the labor area, so that people, it encourages industry also, at the same time safeguards the interests of our labor. That's also a very important thing. And the other thing is...
related is skill development as well, Shekhar.
Yeah, and also the fact that Jiten Ram Majhi, a former Chief Minister of Bihar, has been given a very important portfolio of MSME, small and medium enterprises. Now, this is not just Bihar-centric, but it also covers a lot of small industries which have come up in the last decade, who were affected by COVID, and now they are emerging from that, and they will have to do a lot of. The Jitendra Majhi's leadership should see that the ministry is able to sort out a lot of problems these MSMEs have been facing. At the same time, government has been according concessions to see that they are on a trajectory path. Similarly, Kumaraswamy, former Karnataka Chief Minister, has been given who represents the Janata Dal Secular. They just won one seat, and they have been accommodated at the cabinet level, and he has been given charge of heavy industries and street portfolio. Similarly, Chirag Paswan of the LJP has been given charge of food and processing. See, when it comes to allies, and also Ram Mohan Naidu, he has got civil aviation, TDP.
Correct.
Earlier, TDP had handled civil aviation under Vajpayee government also, and also earlier under Modi government also, in the first term. So you can see that whether it is ally or a BJP minister who has been given a portfolio, the thrust is that they all will have to work together and also implement without delay all the plan that is being rolled out in terms of the Viksit Bharat. So that's why you saw Prime Minister addressing the first cabinet today, as well as he addressed all the newly elected NDA MPs first, then followed by all the minister probables were also addressed to by the Prime Minister. He engaged them, conveying them what he expected them to do, how important is time this time, the time factor, things will have to be added to a deadline. So the matters are very clear as to what the Prime Minister expects from his ministerial colleagues and what are the challenges ahead and how things have to move in a kind of a time-bound plan. That's why PM has talked of decisions being implemented in the next 100 days.
Yes, certainly we'll see that happening as well. Perhaps there is scope for accommodation of some more people as well, because a couple of allies, it seems, are awaiting a suitable accommodation. But we'll have to wait and see what happens there. Thanks a lot for joining us for the moment, Shekhar Iyer. And still to come on DD India News Hour. Ukraine strikes a blow to Russia's defense systems in Crimea. Iran's political landscape shifts. Hardline presidential candidates approved following President Raisi's tragic death. And Russia's Lavrov as well as China's Wang Yi meet on the sidelines of the two-day BRICS foreign ministers meeting in Russia.
Wherever news breaks, whatever it takes.
Connecting corners, cutting across continents.
Stories that matter from across the globe.
Accurate, authentic journalism that serves you right. From politics to glamour, from sports to world affairs, with a fusion of aesthetics and substance. Introducing news in a new avatar. Experience the world through a new lens. Stay tuned to DD India for an exciting journey beyond borders.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Gautam Roy. Now, the conflict between Israel and Hamas entered its 9th month and there is no sign of peace in the region. In a call for a permanent ceasefire and release of hostages, the US on Sunday called for a vote on its UN Security Council resolution. In a recent development, US Secretary of State Antony Blinken landed in Egypt on Monday as Washington seeks to increase pressure on Hamas and Israel to reach a ceasefire in Gaza. Secretary Blinken urged leaders in the region to press the Hamas in favor of the ceasefire proposal. And later on, Blinken arrived in Tel Aviv, where he is set to meet Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Blinken's trip has come after Israeli Minister Benny Gantz announced his resignation from Prime Minister Netanyahu's emergency government on Sunday. Let's now take you across to Sarah Coates, DD India's Sarah Coates, joining us from Tel Aviv. Good evening to you, Sarah. Now, Secretary Blinken has landed in Tel Aviv some time back from Cairo as part of his latest Middle East trip. What kind of a bid could be expected from him this time round to ensure Israel accepts President Biden's ceasefire proposal?
Hello there. Well, of course, there is a lot of pressure coming from the United States, coming from the Biden administration to get some sort of a deal into play. And this, of course, is why the US's top diplomat is here on the ground, his 8th wartime visit to the region. Now, he is right now meeting with the Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, also the Defence Minister Yoav Gallant. But going off what we've really been hearing for these past few months, there isn't too much optimism here on the ground that anything can really be achieved, given that both Israel and also Hamas have very, very firm stated positions on their end to the war. Now, Hamas and also Palestinian Islamic Jihad have just come out in the last hour or so to say that they remain firm, and that is they won't agree to anything until there is a full comprehensive ceasefire and also the complete withdrawal of Israeli forces from the Gaza Strip. And like we've been hearing from the Israelis time and time again, Israel will not agree to a ceasefire that leaves Hamas in power in the Gaza Strip. So as I mentioned, really not much optimism that Antony Blinken can really achieve anything here.
Okay. And could the needle be pushed further with what happens in the Security Council, in the UN Security Council, because the US is making a very serious attempt there as well to get everyone on board where this plan is concerned?
Well, really, the main parties that do have to agree to this deal are Israel and Hamas, and they continue to state that their ambitions are not being met. As I mentioned, this is the end to the war. But another real big part of Antony Blinken's trip to the region this time is to ensure that a wider scale regional war does not break out, and there's real growing concern that this could in fact happen, given the dire security situation currently in Israel's north. Daily exchanges of rocket fire between Israel and Hezbollah, with reports just over the last half an hour that 2 more explosive-laden drones were launched from southern Lebanon, hitting an area in the Golan Heights, injuring quite a number of people. Still no confirmation on that number, but really, really worrying, the situation up there. And this is something that really the United States believes can potentially be averted, a deterioration of the situation there, if a ceasefire does come into play.
All right, let's see what happens, although you're saying that right now the situation is still not conducive to one unfolding in the next whatever short period of time that we could talk about, a day or two. Thanks a lot for joining us, Sarah, for the moment. Now, Ukraine's military damaged 3 Russian surface-to-air defense systems overnight in missile attacks on the Moscow-ruled Crimean Peninsula. Ukraine's General Staff said the attack struck an S-400 system in Zakoi and 2 less advanced S-300 systems near Yevpatoria and Chornomorsk, resulting in significant losses for Russian air defenses. Meanwhile, Russian Defense Ministry said that it has taken control of the village of Staromyrovsk in the Donetsk region of Ukraine. In another attack, 4 persons were injured by a landmine in Russia's Belgorod. And following a helicopter crash that killed Iran's President Ibrahim Raisi and 7 others on the 19th of last month, the country's Guardian Council on Sunday approved the country's hardline parliament speaker and 5 others to run in the 28th of June presidential election. Once again, the council has barred former President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad, a populist known for the crackdown after his disputed 2009 re-election, from running. He is also remembered for challenging Khamenei and the crackdown on the 2009 Green Movement. The approval of candidates for the election marks the beginning of a 2-week campaign to replace Raisi, a hardline protege of Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. The Guardian Council, a panel of clerics and jurists overseen by Khamenei, hopes to smooth elections amid tensions over Iran's nuclear program and the Israel-Hamas war. The 2-day BRICS foreign ministers meeting began in Russia's Nizhny Novgorod on Monday. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov hosted Chinese counterpart Wang Yi for talks on the sidelines of a BRICS foreign ministers meeting. Both leaders discussed issues related to further development of the BRICS, including the idea of allowing for accession of new countries to the group. Russia is due to host a summit of the leaders of the countries of the BRICS group in the autumn. Criminal trial resumed on Monday for U.S. President Joe Biden's son, Hunter Biden. He will not testify on charges of hiding his drug use from the government in 2018 to illegally buy a gun. Hunter has pleaded not guilty for both the charges, and it's for him to decide whether he would take the witness's stand. Former U.S. President and Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump held a rally in Las Vegas on Sunday. This is his first large-scale rally after Trump was found guilty in the hush money case. In Nevada, Trump said that he would seek to end taxation of income from tips. The current law considers tips as income of employees. In his tax plan, Donald Trump has pledged to give relief to middle-income workers and small businesses.
So this is the first time I've said this, and for those hotel workers and people that get tips, you're going to be very happy, because when I get to office, we are going to not charge taxes on tips, people making tips. We're not going to do it, and we're going to do that right away, first thing in office, because it's been a point of contention for years and years and years, and you do a great job of service, you take care of people.
And closer to home, Pakistan's central bank cut its key interest rate by 150 basis points on Monday. That's a 1.5%. The decision marked first rate reduction in nearly 4 years in the efforts to boost growth amid a sharp decline in retail inflation. The State Bank of Pakistan last changed rates in an emergency meeting in late June last year, when it raised rates by 100 basis points to a record high of 22%. As economic activity slowed over the last 2 years in Pakistan, GDP growth was expected to be at 2.4% in the current financial year. The government said that it will target 3.5% this year, as it expects an uptick in economic activity. And still to come on DD India News Hour. The far-right surges in EU vote, topping polls in Germany, France, Austria. United Kingdom's main opposition party, Labour, will publish its manifesto on Thursday. Back, you're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Gautam Roy, and before we go any further, a look at our top stories. India's president allocates portfolios to 71 ministers. Key departments like Home, Defence, Finance and External Affairs retained in the same hands. Allies get steel, heavy industries, Panchayati Raj and much else. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi holds the first cabinet meeting of his third term. New cabinet clears plans to build 30 million homes for urban and rural poor under Central Housing Scheme. European Commission Chief Ursula von der Leyen declares victory, saying the centre has held after far-right parties surge in the EU parliamentary polls. And in his latest Middle East visit, US Secretary of State Antony Blinken says he's urging the region's leaders to get the Hamas to agree to President Biden's ceasefire deal. Projections of the results of the European Union's parliamentary elections show that European Commission's chief Ursula von der Leyen's party has managed to hold fort. But the biggest trend has been the emergence and surge of far-right forces in several EU nations, from France to Germany and Austria to Italy. It's prompted French President Emmanuel Macron to take a big wager and announce snap parliamentary elections. Take a look.
A crushing defeat for French President Emmanuel Macron's party in Sunday's European Parliament elections at the hands of Marine Le Pen's far-right outfit had an unforeseen fallout. After Le Pen's National Rally Party won with around 32% of the vote, more than double of what Macron's outfit got, the French president announced dissolution of parliament and holding of snap parliamentary elections on the 30th of this month, the second round of voting set for 7th of July. Macron termed the results a disaster for his government, which he couldn't pretend to ignore.
This decision is serious, a hard one, but it is above all an act of confidence in you, my fellow citizen, in the capacity of the French people to make the fairest choice for themselves and for future generation, confidence in our democracy so that the voice can be given to sovereign people. Nothing can be more Republican.
French far-right leader Le Pen welcomed Macron's call to hold fresh polls.
The French have spoken, and this historic election shows that when the people vote, the people win. By giving more than 32% to the National Rally list, the French have just given us the highest score all parties combined in 40 years.
But the announcement of the snap polls zapped the organizers of the Paris Olympics, as the games are set to be held from 26th of July to the 11th of August.
France is used to holding election. They will do it one more time. There will be a new government and everyone will support the Olympics.
The far right also made gains in Germany, where the Alternative for Germany took the second place, polling more votes than all the three parties in Chancellor Olaf Scholz's coalition. But a German government spokesperson ruled out holding snap polls as a result. Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni was all smiles after her far-right brothers of Italy won the highest votes in the EU parliamentary elections, confirming its status as Italy's most popular party. Apart from France, Germany and Italy, far-right political forces also made gains in many other EU countries like Austria, with voters remaining concerned about migration, inflation and the cost of environmental reforms. But the centre-right European People's Party remained the largest party according to latest projections in the EU Parliament, prompting European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen to declare victory.
Centre is holding. But it is also true that the extremes on the left and on the right have gained support. And this is why the result comes with great responsibility for the parties in the centre.
However, the key difference between Europe's different, often divergent political forces narrows down to what is considered pro-European. Which forces pull harder in which direction determines not only how Europe responds to challenges like that of inflation, environment, technologies like artificial intelligence and the wars in Ukraine and Gaza, but also trade relations and the balancing act between the US, China and Russia. With Gautam Roy, Tanvi Taneja for DD India.
And joining us now to talk about the latest results and projections in the EU parliamentary elections are Trent Murray from Berlin and Pablo Guterres from Budapest. Good evening to you, Trent. First, how big is a setback is the outcome for the EU parliamentary elections for German Chancellor Olaf Scholz and his party? The opposition has called for holding snap polls here as well as, like what's happened in France. And that's been ruled out at the moment, right? And Olaf Scholz also saying it can't be business as usual anymore.
Yeah, that's right. I don't think that idea is a real starter at all for Olaf Scholz. He will not be following the lead of French President Emmanuel Macron. That is because he would potentially lose office. It's worth remembering Macron's neck is not on the line here. He is the President of France and these parliamentary elections won't affect him. But if Olaf Scholz was to do the same, it could certainly affect him and his party. I mean, look, let's be very clear. His Social Democrat Party has really been hit for six in all of this. They came in third behind the Conservatives and the Far Right Party, their worst ever result in a European Union election. And I think even him, he knows he needs to potentially make some changes. Speaking at a press conference today, he said he has heard the message and that he now will have to work to regain the electorate's trust. I think more broadly, there of course is the impact in Europe of all of this. Germany is the European Union's largest country. It has the largest number of seats in Brussels. But I think for Scholz, he's also looking at this domestically. He has an election coming up next year, but crucially, he also has three very important state polls later this year. On current projections, the far right could potentially win all three of those state polls, creating a real political headache for him. I think for him and his government, the work really begins now to try and steer the ship away from the rocks for those legacy parties who really did cop a beating overnight in those EU elections.
Yes, quite a serious outcome really then. And Pablo, is it a different story in Hungary? Nationalist Viktor Orban and his party have had their worst results in EU polls in 2 decades, having been upstaged by a right-of-centre upstart.
Well, that's right. European voters took their concerns to the ballot box this weekend and they shook centers of power across the bloc. Hungary was no exception. Prime Minister Viktor Orban's Fidesz party suffered its greatest loss in an EU-wide election since 2006. It's true, they got most of the vote, about 44%, but even that is down from the previous election when they got about 52% of the vote. So what led to all of this? Well, there is growing disillusion among many voters here in Hungary who basically don't see eye to eye anymore with Orban's style of government. They accuse it of corruption. And earlier this year, one of those incidents was a time bomb that led to the rise of this new political figure, Peter Magyar. Earlier in the year, there was a scandal over a pardon of a sex abuse case, and that led to basically a public outcry. Magyar capitalized on this and rode the public sentiment. They gathered, his party, the TISA party, gathered 30% of the vote. 30%, mind you, in 2 months of campaigning. He traveled, crisscrossed the country, 200 cities and localities in total. And now his party has 7 delegates, or will have 7 delegates in the EU. And Viktor Orban's party number of MPs is down to 11 from 13 out of total 21 in Hungary. This is significant because the TISA party delegates, Magyar's delegates, will likely sit with the European People's Party, who came out as the outright victor of the elections this weekend. And that is going to be a significant challenge for Prime Minister Viktor Orban and his plans to overtake or retake or remake the European Union, as some political analysts have said.
Perhaps that is something that he may have to wait for another opportunity. Now, Trent, what do the overall results and projections in the EU parliamentary polls mean for which way is Europe headed on key global issues, from the wars in Ukraine and Gaza to combating economic and climate challenges?
Well, look, I think what we have to remember is that, as Ursula von der Leyen said in her acceptance speech, the centre has held, and what she has held rather, and what she means by that is those legacy parties largely have still managed to keep a majority on the floor of the European Parliament. And I think for that reason, we shouldn't expect any major policy changes moving forward, especially on those key issues like climate change and foreign affairs. What we could see is some of those European countries that have seen a surge of the far right maybe start to back away from some of the pledges on climate change, or to make new announcements on things like border security and immigration. It doesn't necessarily mean there'll be a huge overhaul of EU policy in that area, but I think they will know that on their flank they are trying to deal with this sort of anti-establishment surge from voters, and that really could affect national votes. I think much of it will depend on what happens in France in coming weeks. Of course, France, the second biggest country in the EU, what happens there matters to the rest of the bloc. But, you know, look, moving forward, we will just have to wait and see. Worth remembering, Ursula von der Leyen hasn't secured it yet. She still needs to negotiate with those parties to get a majority, but she certainly is the bookie's favourite right now to get a second term based on the numbers last night and what we're hearing from the negotiating rooms in Brussels.
Yes, and people seem to be worried about the Greens taking a beating as well. And what does that mean for all the expenses that will be made, that are to be made to combat climate change? Now, Pablo, in what way could these results dictate how Europe deals with the global south, where India is a key member and a major voice?
Yeah, that's a real important question. Recently, we heard from the European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen. She said that the strategic relationship between the European Union and India has not reached its full potential. Now, let's go back to 4 years ago, because that's when the EU and India signed this strategic partnership. It was a roadmap to 2025, a way to see how the cooperation between the world's largest trading bloc could cooperate with the third largest economy, which is India, or is projected to be India. Now, we look at this, and I talked to some political analysts, and they say that this election and the results that we have now will give this relationship a chance to reboot and focus on some of those key objectives, which were economic and technological development, as well as security. Recently, there was supposed to be a summit between EU leaders and India. That didn't happen because of the elections. We're going to see if that will come back to the table, you know, after all of this is completed now.
Yes, government formation is in place in India, and pretty soon things should settle down where the EU is also concerned. So let's hope that these issues and these efforts get renewed impetus. Thanks a lot for joining us for the moment, Pablo, as well as Trent. Now, UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak has ruled out resigning amid setbacks during his poll campaign. Rishi Sunak said that he remains focused on his campaign. Last week, the UK PM had to apologise for leaving D-Day commemoration in France early for an interview. His early departure was also criticised by leaders from his own Conservative Party. Now, UK's main opposition party, Labour, will publish its manifesto on Thursday. According to opinion polls, the party is set to defeat the ruling Conservatives in the 4th of July elections. Now, the two parties clashed last week after Prime Minister Sunak said Labour would raise taxes by $2,500 per household if it comes to power. Labour has strongly rejected that figure. Its leader, Keir Starmer, has said that Labour doesn't require tax increases over and above those that are there already and they've been set out. And still to come on DD India News Hour. Amid Egypt's scorching heat wave, an indoor ski resort defies the temperatures by hosting a daring 4x4 car race through obstacles on its snowy slopes.
Complex issues, hidden agendas, twists and turns, strategic games. We think all dots are linked. We just need to connect them. Join me every week as I connect the dots to unravel hidden designs in statecraft, mysteries, and decode issues that matter to you. Watch Connecting the Dots with me at these times on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Gautam Roy. Let's now take a look at some other stories that are making news as well from within the country. Well, Prem Singh Tamang has taken oath as the state of Sikkim's chief minister in Gangtok on Monday. Governor Lakshmanan Prasad Bharati administered the oath of office in secrecy to Tamang at the swearing-in ceremony. Tamang has now assumed the office of chief minister of Sikkim for the second straight term.
I now request
Over 179 million kilograms of tea worth over 3,346 crore rupees sold in Guwahati Tea Auction Centre in the last 14 months. The non-speciality granular CTC tea fetched a record price of 723 rupees per kilo at the Guwahati Tea Auction Centre. CTC expands to crush, turn and curl, a process that yields the black tea commonly consumed by people in India. Sindhu's Shikhar car rally from Delhi to Leh and back was flagged off by Vice Admiral Sanjay Bhalla, Chief of Personnel, on the 10th of June, that is on Monday in New Delhi. The main objective of the expedition is to spread awareness about the rich maritime heritage of India. The expedition consists of 40 naval personnel and will cover a distance of 3,637 kilometers over 18 days, traversing through remote regions. The Archaeological Survey of India has ended its 80th day of survey at the Bhojshala complex in the central Indian state of Madhya Pradesh. The Madhya Pradesh High Court had told the agency to conduct a scientific survey of the controversial site. And now let's get you some of the other latest updates from around the world as well. 4 foreigners were attacked and stabbed on Monday in Jilin city in China. The police have apprehended the suspect, with initial reports indicating the attacker is an ultra-nationalist. Colombian authorities seized more than 5 tons of cocaine off the Colombian coast, some of which was found in a vessel after a high-speed chase. The peddlers were crewed by 5 people of Colombian nationality and one person of Ecuadorian nationality. Wildfires in Brazil's Pantanal, the world's largest tropical wetland, continued to rage, with firefighters struggling to bring the flames under control. Nearly 32,000 hectares have already been destroyed in the fires in the state of Mato Grosso do Sul. Climate experts say this year's wildfire season has started earlier and is more intense than previous years. Britain's King Charles presented new colours to the Irish Guards at a ceremony held at Windsor Castle on Monday. Kate, Britain's Princess of Wales, is Colonel of the Irish Guards. The Colonel's review takes place a week before a higher-profile parade to mark the birthday of the monarch. And now let's get you some sporting updates as well. Now, amid Egypt's scorching heat wave this week, an indoor ski resort hosted a Saturday a 4x4 car race through obstacles on a ski slope. Four-wheel rally cars were seen drifting on snow for what organizers say was the first time, not only for the audience in the Middle East and Africa, but also for the contestants themselves, who were used to racing in sandy desert conditions. The event was attended by an audience which had all-day access to the snow park through previously purchased tickets. Sounds of ferocious drumming and cheering crowds filled the air as dragon boats made waves in Hong Kong on Monday, while the city celebrated the annual Dragon Boat Festival. Hundreds of paddlers made a splash on the waters of Aberdeen Harbour, where a total of 29 races, marking the largest scale event of its kind in the city, took place. While dragon boat racing originated in China's southern Lingnan region over 1,000 years ago, the modern version found its roots in Hong Kong, a special administrative region of China, approximately 40 years ago. The Olympic torch rally continued its journey through French Guiana on Sunday. Former NBA player Kevin Serafin and swimmer Malia Metella were among the torchbearers on the South American territory. The relay will close with the lighting of the cauldron in Paris during the opening ceremony of the Olympic Games. India's top-ranked singles player Sumit Nagal won the ATP Challenger event in Germany, beating Alexander Ritschard of Switzerland in three hard-fought sets 6-1, 7-6, 7-5, 6-3 on Sunday. With this title triumph, he will be entering the top 80 of the ATP rankings, making him eligible to compete in the Paris Olympics next month. Let's talk about cricket now. Jasprit Bumrah delivered an exceptional spell, helping India secure a narrow 6-run victory over Pakistan at Nassau County International Cricket Stadium in New York in a very low-scoring game. Bumrah finished with impressive figures of 3 for 14 in 4 overs, crucial to restricting Pakistan to 113 for 7 in 20 overs. Take a look.
In cricket, sometimes the difference between victory and defeat comes down to one player. And on Super Sunday, that player was Jasprit Bumrah. One team had Bumrah, the other didn't. And that was the difference. His legend is already filled with incredible displays. But this performance will feel sweeter, not just because it came in the T20 World Cup match against Pakistan, but because without his intervention, this game would have almost certainly had a different ending. India defended a modest 119. Pakistan were 80 for 3 but lost. Bumrah's discipline, his calmness under pressure and his extraordinary skill delivering the right ball and understanding what the right ball is confounded man and machine alike in New York. Mohammad Rizwan thought he had a full-length ball to play a cross-batted shot. His stumps paid the price and Bumrah, after knocking it back, spread his arms wide and broke us into a smile. That his usual celebration. But he didn't stop there. He rode, and over 30,000 people at the ground rode with him. He punched the air, millions joined him. That was the opening India could build on. This was the crack that could cause the collapse. Rizwan, the set batter, fell for 31 of 44 balls. Bumrah, who had already taken out Babar Azam earlier, also dismissed Pakistan's final hope, Iftikhar Ahmed, in the 19th over. Of his 24 balls, 15 were dots. Bumrah's mastery created history. 119 was the lowest total ever defended in men's T20 World Cup. Jasprit Bumrah, the difference maker. With camera person S. Jaishankar, this is Tapash Bhattacharya for DD India from New York.
And that's all we have in this edition of DD India News Hour, but do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. And for those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms, and there was a QR code on the screen as well a few seconds ago. You can scan that whenever you want and get the app. We'll be back with more news and updates as the break here on DD India. I'm Gautam Roy, and from all of us here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India News Hour.